Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. What a big week. People get fired, people get hired, people get shouted, people get let's enjoy. Well, hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hello. I'm good, Mr. Bagg. How are you?
My goodness, I would say that by your background, you might be working someplace on the West Coast this week. Where are you?
That's correct. I'm up in Seattle tonight, and they did me a solid and gave me a nice room. So I was like, well, who wants to look at a wall when they can look at the beautiful Pacific Northwest? And so I'm trying to adjust my phone here as best I can. But as you know, I'm challenged with that at the best of times. So let's just get her going, Lard Bag, and see where this leads.
Well, we tried to record the ass last night, but the internet gods would not let us. So we're starting today. We started last night where we were going to talk about the firing of everybody in Vancouver. And before we could get recorded, boom, Vancouver's won one game. Start the parade. It's happening. The Stanley Cup's coming to
That's
Vancouver.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. What
We're
did
gonna
you
have
think?
to make a call to Calgary and Edmonton and get the route.
What did you think of how should we start? Let's start with, were you surprised by the firing?
No, I wasn't. What you're seeing in Vancouver, and it seems like we've talked about them at nauseum, but what you're seeing in Vancouver is something you don't normally see a lot of. Like Montreal cleaned out their whole front office basically.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver took out the front office, majority of it, and their coach, a few of their coaches, specifically their head coach. So, kind of rare. I just kind of wonder if this is the start of kind of a new trend when ownership gets to a point where they're like, well, this isn't working anymore. Boom, everybody gets let go. So, the culture in Vancouver obviously was not what it needed to be for them to be a winning team. Enter in Bruce Boudreau. He's 1-0.
1-0. Team played a little different last night. They like playing like they are having fun. I thought, um, this happens every time a coach gets fired. They're just like, oh, he couldn't try anything new. It got stagnant. But I was like, these guys, if you're about to get fired, why not just just throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks and see what works instead of trying the same old, same old. Any
Mm-hmm.
particular are they worried about their next job, or are they what's going on? Because we all notice it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think you see it in a lot of different places. I mean, but Travis Green was a little different in the fact that he would change from shift to shift his lines. Not, he wouldn't change from game to game. He would change from shift to shift. So it wasn't like he, wasn't afraid to kind of juggle things up. But obviously, the message wasn't getting through for some reason. I like Greeny as a coach. I played with him. I think he'll get another chance.
Your voice has disappeared. I don't know where you've gone. I think you may have put yourself on mute there for a second.
No. What happened is I'm getting a phone call. So here's
Ah,
what I got to do real quick. I got to do that, and then I'll come back. There we go. So I really like Travis Green. I think he's a good young coach. And what happened in Vancouver was um, just I don't know. I don't know if they tuned him out. It's just the message just didn't get through any longer, and I think the GM sets the tone for the organization, and the coach sets the tone for the team. And
mm,
in Vancouver, they definitely needed something to happen, and it wasn't happening. So now they've got a chance to do a reboot. I think you can pretty much wash this year away. I don't see them being able to get back in the playoff race, but funnier things have happened. And when you're saying that December 7th, funnier things have happened. But
let me tell
you
you
know,
about a team called St. Louis. I went to see a couple years ago, and it was December, and I went in there and I seen them, and they were horrible. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen. Vancouver smacked them around. Pedersen scored many goals. I took off to the airport, and before I left, I said on radio, I said every plane in the NHL could crash, and St. Louis will still not make the playoffs. Boom! St. Louis won the Stanley Cup. So,
yeah, I mean, never say never, right? But
never, yeah.
this is tough because, and it's not like Vancouver doesn't have some great pieces starting in goal with
Great
Demko.
pieces.
Yeah, very good. You just have to wonder though, like, you know, I just was thinking about this before we did the show, the big show tonight,
Big shoe.
uh, this afternoon. But here's the thing: 2-0 in the NHL used to be over and out, done deal, forget about it.
Mm,
Now 3-0, and next thing you know, it's 3-3, and the other teams sometimes 4-3, 5-3. So there's these huge swings of momentum that the
mhm.
NHL has now that never had before, and maybe we just have to get to this kind of thinking that what St. Louis did. Uh, isn't that going to be that far to the norm in years to come? Maybe not win the cup, but make the playoffs. Not out of the realm of possibilities.
The only thing our friend Trent Franson would say they'll get to right now, and then they're out of the playoffs, but then they just ruin themselves in getting a top draft pick. So hopefully they don't. Hopefully they do one or the other. Just shank it or go for it. So I don't know. I don't know. But in the meantime, in Philadelphia, same thing happens. Vigneault gets fired, and then a dog from the police department comes on the ice and craps on the logo at center ice. Have you seen this?
Well, I haven't seen it,
I'm gonna,
but
post it right now.
oh my,
Here's the video of it right now, and I will send it to you as soon as we're done. It's a
oh my goodness,
police
yeah.
dog. The day they fire their coach, a police dog comes on and craps on the logo.
Well, we know all about police dogs, right? And them doing whatever they want.
Yeah,
So Nathan, a shout out to Nathan, and but yeah, it's Philly. Alain Vigneault been very successful. Obviously, there's going to be some rumors about him maybe getting the job in Montreal. He covers a lot of bases for them. He covers the bilingual part of it. He covers the veteran with a lot of credibility. And for the most part, even though the results just were not there, they lost 8 in a row in Philly. For the most part, his players have always played really hard, and his teams have been successful. So we'll see what happens with Alain Vigneault. And I don't know. Mike Yeo played against him throughout my career. Mike has been a head coach in the NHL. We'll
yes.
see what happens there. But as you said last night, Lord Bagg, well, too many goals against in Philly for them to be,
Yeah.
they got to tighten that up. But there's a lot of teams around like that.
Trouble. Trivia question. Where was Mike Yeo fired from his last head coaching job?
Well, I will tell you because you were there, St. Louis, and
St.
then
Louis
before that, he was fired from Minnesota.
from Minnesota. That's
Okay.
right. He was fired from St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
and then they
Mm-hmm.
went on to win the Stanley Cup. So if
Right on.
Philadelphia wants to win the Stanley Cup, just fire Mike Yeo, and everything will happen.
Right on.
Do you think they're done for the year? There's no rebuilding there, right? They're too far gone. They're even further gone than Vancouver, I think, that team.
Who, Philly?
Yes.
It's going to be tough again. But, St. Louis proved us wrong before. I mean, you need to have some people come out of the woodwork, I think. And here's a name for you, Jordan Binnington. All
Mm,
he did was go in there and give them stellar, stellar goaltending. So if you're going to look at two teams that could really use a shot in the arm, you could look at Philly, which you would hope Carter Hart could give them what they need. I already think Demko's given Vancouver more than what they need.
mm.
So can Demko play any better? Well, I'm sure if you asked him, he'd say he could. But it's not like Vancouver's goaltending hasn't been all world, or for the most part, all world already, and kept them in games, and they're still struggling. So maybe Philly's a team that could get their goaltending up to the level that everyone thinks Carter Hart could play at, and maybe they can make a run at it. But
I would say
oh man,
I will say it's probably what our friend Corey Hirsch said last night when I was listening to the game. He said, "You know what Vancouver did tonight? Vancouver's defense played defense, and that's what really changed everything. They were they
right,
weren't they
right.
weren't nowhere to be found. So I think Philadelphia has the same thing. That's the last thing we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about bad teams. We're going to move on to good things. Let's
Okay.
move on to Washington D.C. Ovechkin just seems to be taking over the Ukraine right now. He's just wandering across borders and just taking what he wants and slapping people and getting oil. He is just having. Remember when it used to be who's better, Ovechkin or Sydney?
Mhm.
He's kind of left Sydney behind, right? I like to call him Sydney.
Okay, hang on a second. Did you say taking oil?
Taking oil. There's no oil in. know there's no oil in Ukraine.
I am with you though. He's doing whatever he wants.
Yeah,
You know, Ovechkin he's at what 750 goals now. It's incredible the season he's having. Um, he's just, you're right. He goes out there. When I watch him play, I've seen him live. It's like he does whatever he wants, and you just hope you're not on the other end of it. Let's not throw Sid out though yet either.
you got
He's
Travis
having
Green.
he's having a resurgence, and Pittsburgh's having a resurgence, and so I think he had 3 points in Vancouver the other night, another 2 or 3 in Seattle the next night, and that is a team on the rise. And you have a general manager in Ron Hextall and a president in Brian Burke that will do whatever it takes to try and get that team to the next level. And they were just bought by the outfit that owns, I believe, Manchester United and the Boston Red Sox.
Yes.
So there is no shortage of cash available, even though it's the salary cap era. They'll spend the money that they can.
I'll go right to the end of it. Ovechkin's playing so well. You know what they did yesterday? Him and I can't remember. Backstrom, is Backstrom playing right now?
I'm not sure if he's back yet or not.
It was somebody. They set up Tom Wilson for his 100th goal the other night. That's how good Ovechkin is right now. He just takes time off and just gets 6'7" player his 100th goal in the National Hockey League. Good for him.
Yeah, I would say the biggest shocker this year for Ovi is the amount of assists and the actual attempt to pass the puck, when really he shouldn't be passing to anybody, or no one would get mad at him if he didn't, because he's so prolific. How about that? Prolific.
It's almost like he's toying with Gretzky. He's just saying, I'm going to give some people other goals, and then I'm going to come get your record. Come on, Wayne. Yes. I know.
Well, it'll be good for the game once he starts getting close to Gretz, and Gretz has got so many records, and wouldn't hurt for some positive news in a direction of chasing records. When Patrick Marleau set the all-time games record last year in Vegas, that was exciting. The build-up to that was exciting to watch. Anytime a guy gets his 1,000th game, like Blake Wheeler did the other night in Winnipeg, it's exciting. And so, you know what? Ovi has been so good for the game. He's changed the Washington organization and changed the league in a lot of ways. So it'd be nice to see him as he gets closer to Gretz's all-time goal-scoring record and the buzz it'll create.
I don't know why Pat Marleau doesn't have his own wine, the Pat Marleau.
Yeah, and then he could sell the Pat Merlot by Pat Marleau.
Right. But if he aged it to his career, like if he hits the 20-year age,
unbelievable.
Oh, this is brilliant. Somebody get me Pat Marleau on the.
Yeah, let's get him some 20-year-old Merlot and have Pat Marleau do the sales pitch. I'm in. I'll buy a case.
Jeff loves to buy a good bottle of red wine. Every time I go into a Costco, he wants to know what I bought. What'd you buy? I'm like, steak. And he's like, oh, there's wine there. You should get the wine. It's very judgmental.
I know when Ian and Cab are at a Costco, because I'm always getting a picture of wine. I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty good.
My wife loves to spend money on wine as well. My God, she loves it. She loves to get herself some blue teeth. I have no idea why she got braces. You got sweet teeth, bluing them up. What else we got to talk about this week? The other teams that are playing well, Calgary and Edmonton, even though Connor McDavid may be the filthiest player of all times. He he just dirty. Makes PK Subban look like an altar boy the way he plays.
Yeah, well, you don't see the best player in the world get kicked out too often. He got kicked out for boarding the other night. A pretty legit call. I mean, no one is pointing the finger at Connor McDavid. They all know how good he is for the game and what a great player is, and he's not. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit. I think he's a little nicked up. He might be a little frustrated. Might be a little sore. People are starting to chase them around. Give Calgary and Edmonton full marks. They have it going on. And to go, just move out to the east a bit, because we have focused on those teams a lot recently. Some feel-good stories in the east, obviously Florida, but Detroit is another one, and so is Columbus, and we already touched on Pittsburgh. Those teams have a lot going their direction right now.
We actually we haven't talked about it. We tweeted about it, but there's you're third on. Is it second or third on the list of a rookie record? What is it? What is it? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? Point consecutive
I,
points.
yeah, I don't know. There's a young defenseman named Hronek who took down one of my all-time records in Detroit last year. But there's a kid named Sider.
Yeah.
There's two kids in Detroit that you got to look out for. Now remember we talked about Troy Terry, right? In Anaheim, this kid is unbelievable. Well, we've got a kid in Detroit, a young forward named Raymond. He's a 19-year-old, and this guy has got a release, actually a little reminiscent of a Brett Hall kind of release. And then they've got this big young D, who our boy, big friend of the show, Dougie Huda, who's
Mm-hmm.
assistant coach in Detroit, is doing a great job with, named Sider.
Ooh.
Hoods, yeah, Hoods is a good guy. And so, again, they're getting. You need to have some energy injected into your lineup, or someone you weren't expecting to help push the boat into the water and get it sailing. And that's what's happened in Detroit, and that's what needs to happen in some of these other teams we talked about. In Detroit, you got Sider, a young defenseman playing huge minutes, and you've got Raymond, who was scoring at an unbelievable pace to start his career. And like they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So
Mhm.
they got the boat in the water, and away they go.
It's very interesting. It's like anything. When you grip too hard, it slips out of your hands, and you can see that going on with these teams that are struggling. But the guys that are having fun, their teams are playing better than we expected them to. So, and it's a great analogy for life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to do it when you're in it. If it was that simple, anybody and everybody would do it. But if you can somehow get to that point where you're not pushing so hard it gets away from you, you can really do it. And I feel like Detroit's kind of having fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're having fun. I think Columbus is another team. Buffalo was having some fun, but not anymore.
Because it's
Florida's
Buffalo.
well, Florida's definitely having fun, and you know what? I think Calgary's having fun too, just a little different kind of fun under Daryl, right? Like
Right.
Daryl kind of is like, I watched Monday night or Sunday Night Football, and they were showing Belichick, and his career speaks for itself. So does Daryl. It's Bill's way or the highway. And in Calgary, and it was this way in LA, it's Daryl's way or the highway. And I
Right.
think they've embraced that. You watch the teams that play well, again, they're not coming to the rink guessing what they have to do or what's their role. It's pretty well laid out. And another team that looks like they might be having some fun and it's tough to do in that market is Toronto. Toronto's record is great. And I think, they've got some veteran guys there that are helping keep it loose. They understand the pressure. And Toronto's off to a pretty good start. And New York Rangers look like they're having all kinds of fun, whereas the Islanders are having no fun.
The
Um,
Islanders have
oh my goodness! So
beached their boat onto the water. Yeah,
yeah,
they're just stuck on an island, and they're just like, "Hey, you remember us? We used to be in the NHL."
yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that New York Rangers team. Uh, I don't know if there's a couple pieces missing, but they're really close to being
Mm-hmm.
insane. And then Buffalo it has struggled, but it's because of injuries. Because they're really looking for a goalie there. They signed Malcolm Subban the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna stop. We're gonna go to Boston right now. Is Tuukka Rask not signed?
No, well, he's injured, right? So he's not going to be back until I believe in the new year. So he had hip surgery, and so he's out. So he's a free agent. But of
So
course, what's that?
he's not signed.
No, no, no. He's a free agent, and
What?
and so
Okay.
yeah, Tuca. I kind of hope he comes back and he wants to play with the Bruins. He's one of the best interviews out there because he's so direct and just says
Right.
the way it is. And Boston is in the mix again. Um, could they use that? He's I don't know. It's just something about those number one keepers in the NHL that they just kind of have that extra
Mhm.
little buzz, and I think they help energize their team. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't bring him back. But I don't think we're going to see Tuca until January or February, and we'll see how he's doing then. And then Just one other team, and I agree with you on the Rangers. The Rangers are really close. Their record's great. You're just like, hey, what's missing here to push
Mm-hmm.
this team over the top? We'll have to wait and see. A team that I want to talk about that we've talked about a little bit that seems to be having fun, and they weren't having a lot of fun early, is Dallas. Dallas has gotten
I
on a
want to
bit
talk
of a
about Dallas
roll.
too.
Yeah, and so they're in Vegas tonight as we tape this. Um, Real tough week for Vegas. They got some rough teams coming in. They got handled Calgary the other night, which was a big game. Another big team that gives them some trouble tonight coming in Dallas, and then they finish this week on Friday, I believe it is, or Thursday with Minnesota, which is another team that is, looks like they're having fun. But you notice there's kind of a, you know, they all win, right? So when you're winning, you're having fun. They're not squeezing the stick so hard. They're getting some bounces. It's funny in life how that works, right? Kind
Mm-hmm.
of looser and letting things just happen how they do, and trusting your work that you put in and your energy level is where it needs to be. You're successful, not always, but majority of the times, and that's what's happening. And the coaching and structure on some of these teams is elite as well.
Very much. Vegas must have, outside of relief. Jack Eichel, I think it's 2.5 weeks. He had that operation. He's already skating, so
Mm-hmm.
they must be going. Oh, this is exciting. This is exciting. We spent a bunch of money and we're going to get to use it. So they must be excited. But let's go back to Dallas really quickly because we talked
Yep.
about goalies. They've got 4 goalies. Ben Bishop is going down to the AHL to do a stint. So now they have 4. They have to send Ottinger is the only one that can go down, be sent down to the
Mm-hmm.
minors without being put on waivers.
Right.
So basically, he has to bide his time until next year. Is basically what they're saying. He's not going to, he's not going to be the guy that gets to stay up the whole year. But who would you trade? Who would you put on the market, and what would you be looking for in Dallas
You're
next
right. Well, this is a tough one because Ottinger is kind of helped with the resurgence in Dallas.
year?
He's played really well. They beat Colorado, St. Louis, and Edmonton with him in net. The other night last night they rolled over, just rolled right through um, Arizona. Not, that's not as big a deal this year, but the team is trending in a really positive direction, and he's had a big part of that. So in Dallas, you've got Braden Holtby, you've got Hudobin, who was their guy that got them to the Stanley Cup Finals, and you
Mhm,
got Ben Bishop.
mhm.
So Bishop can go down for a conditioning stint for a while. The rumor is, and we're not exactly, the rumor mongers here, but that they're trying to move Kudobin and are shopping him. But I don't know. I tell you, with this team coming back like it is, and Ottinger, he's a really good young goalie, 6'5". I think he is really tall, stands big in there. He's playing well. I'd have a really hard time sending him down. I'd be trying to do a deal for one of the other guys, and ultimately, you know what? Ottinger's going to be your guy. Figure out who's going to run with them, and one of the other guys is going to have to either get traded or you just waive them and hope someone picks them up. And if they don't, then you put them down with your farm team in Austin, Texas.
I think you go with Ottinger and Holtby, Khudobin, as I like to call him, Hodobin. I think it's a struggle. It's because he did bring you to the promised land, so it's a pretty tough thing to just throw him
Mm-hmm.
away like that. So I think you try to find him where he'd like to play. I think you go to him and just be honest with him.
Yeah, and Jim Nill is another ex-teammate of mine, really good guy, and he's been around a long time. He was in Detroit with Stevie Y when Kenny Holland and Jimmy, back even when Jimmy DeVilano was there. But Kenny Holland worked with Jim Nill and Stevie Yzerman in Detroit for a long time. Then Stevie went to Tampa. Jimmy Nill went to Dallas, and he's got a lot of really good pieces. They've done some really good drafting there. Now they've got a problem because they got too many goalkeepers. So I'm not sure why they brought Holtby in. Maybe they didn't think Bishop would be back. They didn't know if Ottinger would be ready. Who knows? But I think Jim would definitely try and do the best deal he could for Hudobin, who's been a really good player in that organization. and maybe he's the guy that stays with Ottinger, and they figure this thing out. And Bishop and Holtby, they try to reaccommodate. But yeah, good problem to have, especially if you don't have salary cap issues. Winning and trying to figure out what you're going to do with your goalies.
Just before we wrap it up, would you think you'd call Edmonton?
Oh, I'm sure you call everybody, but Edmonton might be calling them. Although, it's kind of the tire kind of lost a little bit of air there last couple of games in Edmonton. But the goaltending, what I saw with Koskinen, if he gives them anything even close to that,
Right.
they're going to be right. They're going to be really tough. But you have an issue with Mike Smith, who's been kind of long-term injury now. You might want to get some insurance in Edmonton and someone with a proven track record. Could you imagine a guy like Khudobin in Edmonton?
Yeah.
The teammates love him. All you got to do is go back to that YouTube clip from a few years ago when he had the player of the game medal around his neck and told everybody that they're not going home yet. We're not going home. And everyone got a laugh out of that. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Braden Holtby's the guy. Tough to say. But here's a little.
I'm going up.
Holland.
Well, sorry.
Huh?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just to finish, Kenny Holland was a goalkeeper in junior with the Mighty Medicine Hat Taggers, and he knows his goalies and what he's looking for as much as anybody. So this will be interesting to see if and when they grab someone in Edmonton to just help, give them depth.
Nice. Well, let's wrap it up. Do you have any shout outs this week? You know what? Yeah, I do actually. And today is 80th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And you're like, well, what are you talking about, Jeff? When we were over in Hawaii years ago, when one of my daughter's teams won the Nevada State Cup for soccer, the regionals were in Honolulu. Well, that was really tough. So we went over and we got to visit Pearl Harbor. And one of the survivors of Pearl Harbor was there on Sundays, and there was not a lot of them left. And he was signing books and saying hi, and the kids all got pictures with him. So I want to give a shout out to the brave men and women that serve so bravely for all our countries, Canada and the U.S., that we are so lucky to be able to be from and work in the United States. And what a day 80 years ago that young man and everybody else that was lost there must have experienced. But I want to give a shout out to him today. And I'll never forget the day we spent at Pearl Harbor and got a picture with him. So shout out to everybody in the military and our people that were at Pearl Harbor. And this gentleman, I don't recall his name, but it was really cool for the kids to get to meet him and see what the price of freedom really costs for a lot of us. Very nice. I'm going to give a shout out to you because I thought you were going to give a shout out to the Japanese for Pearl Harbor.
No. I mean,
had me tricky. I was like, oh.
Yes, it's like he had me on mute. Hey, hang on a second. He's gone a little off the rails. He's got a room with a view. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He's better than everybody else, and he's flying out the rails. Okay. Love it all, Jeff. Have a good day.
Is that all you got? You're going to give a shout out to me?
A shout out with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that our 20 minutes got into 30 again today. So
I know. Well, here's the thing. I was gonna yell at American Airlines. I was gonna give a reverse shout out, and then you did a nice shout out, so I couldn't give my American.
I can't tell if you're having tears. Are you just happy I didn't shout out to the? Oh my God. Okay, that's enough.
I was gonna American Airlines, and then you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's probably more shout outs, but you know what? Today, we're going to shout out to the brave men and women that serve for all our countries, and thank you so much. And hey, you know what? I got to tell you this before I go. We can't get away. Is that your phone again? It
was mine. Yes.
Okay. So the other day, I put it on once in a while. I'll listen to the slices just to hear do some critiques, and and all of a sudden I hear this thing start ringing. I'm like, oh my God, is my phone ringing? That is so loud and annoying. And then I hear you go, oh, that's my phone. So I'm glad you got it back in there again this week. Love
That's
tall.
love tall.
Well, everybody, that's another week of enjoying orange slices. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hey, like, rate, and review. I sound like Ian right now, but I guess I got all that out. Have a great week. Holiday season's coming up. Be kind to your family. Be kind to your friends. See you soon. Love tall.